It's Tuesday, the 10th of September. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, trying to get caught up on my reports around here, and the hits just keep coming. Talk about breaking news. It looks like today at Atlanta's Hartsfield Airport, Atlanta, Georgia, a Delta Airlines A350 knocked the tail completely off of this Endeavor Airlines CRJ-900. Here's what we know so far. Starting first with the Aviation Safety Network, Tuesday, 10 September, 10 o'clock local time, an Airbus A350-900 series, November 503 Delta November, a 2017 model. No reported injuries at this time at the Atlanta airport. Delta Airlines Flight 295, an Airbus A350-941, and a Delta Connection flight, Delta Airlines Flight 5526, a Bombardier CRJ-900, were involved in a ground collision at the Atlanta International Airport. Both aircraft were taxiing for departure, with the CRJ-900 holding short of runway 08 right at Taxiway Hotel. At that time, the A350 taxied along Taxiway Echo. The right-hand wingtip of the A350 knocked over the vertical and horizontal stabilizer of the CRJ-900. In this report is a not-to-scale drawing from Flight Radar 24 of the collision. And if we take a closer look at this not-to-scale picture, it shows the CRJ pulled all the way up to the hold short lines for the runway 8 right. And according to this picture, it looks like the two aircraft never would fit in the first place. This incident occurred right here at Taxiway Hotel, where it enters the runway 8 right. If we look at this still shot from 11 Alive, the helicopter that was filming shortly after the incident, here we can see Taxiway Hotel. Here's the hold short line right here, 8 right hold short line. And here we see the nose, where the nose of the CRJ is located. If we count these black lines, it looks like about 1, 2, 3, 4, almost to the fifth black line is where the nose wheel of the CRJ is located. In other words, he's not pulled quite all the way up to the hold short line. So investigators will be asking and finding out, your hearing will improve at the hearing after a situation like this. Was the CRJ taxiing at the time of the accident, or was he stopped here holding short of runway 8 right? And for the Airbus A350 crew, did they see that the CRJ was not quite pulled up all the way to the hold short line? Because the Delta Airlines A350-900 is about the largest aircraft in the Delta fleet. It's got a wingspan of 212 feet, complete with vertical winglets. The Endeavor Airlines CRJ-900, flown for Delta Airlines with Delta Airlines livery, is 118 feet from nose to tail, according to Wikipedia. And this should include all the way out to the tip of his horizontal stabilizer located up on top of the vertical tail, or nearly the top of the vertical tail. So if the A350 has a wingspan of 212 feet, half of that should be 106 feet. If we go from the center line over 106 feet, he should be able to clear that distance right there. Now, from that wingtip difference, right there at 106 feet, if we swing this around, that should give him all the way up to the hold short line 158 feet. 158 feet minus 118 feet for the length of the CRJ, he should give him 40 feet of clearance. In other words, if the CRJ is all the way up to the hold short line, the A350 should be able to pass easily behind the CRJ. But here we see the CRJ located right about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take it 4 black lines back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 115 feet. Like Maxwell Smart missed it by that much. What could have been potentially disastrous with this situation is in the back of the CRJ, like most of these jets, there is mounted the APU, the auxiliary power unit. Now, when you're holding short to take off, usually that APU has long since been turned off shortly after engine start. But that APU mounted back here, now what is this laying down here? That's probably water from these trucks, but had that APU been running, that could have been a disaster if the wingtip had struck the APU. But it looks like the winglet and the wingtip of the A350 is tall enough to clear the fuselage and instead creamed the rudder and vertical fin of the CRJ. And if we go back and take a closer look at the picture posted here on the Aviation Safety Network, it looks like the winglet cleared the fuselage completely and impacted the rudder down here at the base of the rudder and up here towards the top of the rudder, knocking the entire tail section clean off of its two mounting bolts located right up here on top of the fuselage. But here's the exhaust for the APU right out the tail of the aircraft. The A350, like most airliners, is steered with a tiller, as shown here on this picture from Sam Chewy, Aviation and Travel. There's two tillers located here, one here for the captain and one over here for the FO, but normally the captain does all the taxiing of the aircraft. And in this incident, of course, the collision occurred off to the right. So the captain really needs the FO's assistance in making sure that he is cleared to the right. But one of the problems is these aircraft are so huge and so large that you cannot see your wingtip from the cockpit of the aircraft. So it's very hard to clear the wingtip. And no, there's no cameras out there on the wingtip to see if you're clear. They need you looking outside the front of the aircraft and following the yellow lines in order to ensure clearance. Now, I'm not familiar with the Airbus A350, but on the Boeing 777-300ER, there is a camera. There's 3 cameras mounted on the aircraft, and all you can really see is the nose gear, the location of the nose gear, which is, of course, behind you, sitting in the cockpit, and the location of the 2 main gears so that you don't drive the main gear off into the ditch while you're making your corners with these huge aircraft. These cameras on the 777 are mounted on the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer, and this camera is mounted on the bottom of the fuselage, looking at the nose gear. The point being that neither of these cameras will help you with your wingtip clearance. So when taxiing by, you're relying on the crew's situational awareness to realize that, hey boss, that CRJ is not pulled quite all the way up to the hold short line. This doesn't look good, before proceeding. And for operators of the smaller jets to pull all the way up to the hold short line to allow traffic to clear them from behind. And for ATC to be that third layer of protection and trap these errors if they can see them coming and get everybody stopped before the accident occurs or the collision occurs on the ground. And I've seen a lot of ground collisions, but this one's a doozy. I've never seen anybody knock the tail clean off of another airplane. And as stated earlier, there were no injuries, fortunately, in this event, and apparently the Airbus A350 was able to taxi all the way back to the gate to deplane the passengers. So the question often comes up, is this a career-ending move? Well, in the military, yeah, it kind of was a bit of a career-ending move. As you tried to progress up through the ranks, you would always be remembered as the guy that knocked the tail off of the other airplane in that taxi incident. But in civilian aviation, you've got unions involved, you've got the company involved, you've got lawyers involved, NTSB, FAA, and so this will be investigated thoroughly, and all of the holes in the Swiss cheese will be carefully lined up by the investigators, and then we'll see what happens with the pilots at that point. As a captain on an Airbus A350, you're probably pretty senior with the company. You're probably close to retirement anyways. Don't know. We'll see what happens. But this is just another reminder of the fast pace of operations out there. Atlanta's the world's busiest airport, and how careful you've got to be constantly when out there flying the line. Thank you so much for your support, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. I'll get back to those reports I've been meaning to catch up on here soon. See you here.